Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, your global feel-good radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Linda Howe. Linda Howe is an author of 4 books about the Akashic Records, and she is the only person, to our knowledge, who has a doctorate in spiritual studies focusing on the Akashic Records. Dr. Linda Howe is a world-recognized expert on reading the Akashic Records, and you can find out more about Linda Howe and her wonderful work at her website, lindahowe.com. Welcome, Linda Howe.
Oh, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you today, Catherine.
So, Linda Howe, will you share for our audience what exactly are the Akashic Records?
Of course, of course. Let's start at the beginning. The Akashic Record is a vibrational archive of every soul and their journey as human. Okay, so what that means, it's vibrational. We never see it, not with our human eye, not even with the strong eye, right? It's invisible. And it's a collection of everyone, every human being that has ever walked the earth is included in the Akashic Record, which is really very reassuring and wonderful for us all.
Now, can you describe for our audience also what is the Akashic realm?
Ha. All right, this is interesting because when I first started working in the records in 1994, I had the idea that there were individual beings of light who I would meet and visit with, and they would give me guidance. Actually, I was hoping they would tell me what to do, but it didn't go that way. But what it turns out is that the Akashic Record is, I like to think of it as the energetic connective tissue from the soul to the source. So it's not the soul and it's not the source, right? It's this energy that connects us, and we're always connected to the source, right? And so it holds us steady as we wake up to the truth of who we are, and we live that truth as human beings. Very easy to do it when we're not in bodies, right? No kids, no mortgages, no sick parents. It's a whole different ball game when you're walking the face of the earth. And the records hold us steady. So that's the atmosphere. It's spiritual. So what that means is it's made of the vibration of love and light. So when we go into the records, it's an immersion, it's a conscious immersion into this dimension at the soul level that is, it's very neutral, but it's very supportive, non-judgmental, no judgment, no pushing, no pulling, no insisting, and in this environment, it's so much easier for us to see the truth about ourselves and others and our circumstances. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So
go on and on. It's so exciting to me, but go on, please.
Fascinating. So basically, if I'm going to paraphrase you, it sounds like it's a field of unconditional love. That when you say?
Yes, I would, but I think we want to be careful because it's not sentimental, right? The word love, I'm so sorry, it's just been so contorted, but yes. We want to understand it's love, and the truth of it is about allowing, accepting, embracing, which is different from, I mean, we all love romance and all that, but that's not what this is. And so I like to really qualify that so that we don't get confused.
Absolutely. Yes. It's another acceptance, right?
Right.
Yes.
Unconditional acceptance and regard, high regard. Like one of the things that's very distinct about working in the record, when I go into the record, I have this sense that all my decisions were really the best they could ever be. Who I am, I'm doing, the way I'm conducting myself in this life is really fine. Now, there's always room for improvement, but there's no ridicule, there's no torment, there's no sense that there's some, I don't know, kind of like mean-spirited guide ready to razz me. There's none of that. So it's a clear space. And what's really profound for me personally and for my students is that in the space of unconditional respect, what happens is that we, as human beings, we feel safe. And in that safety, we have the ability to it's much easier to be honest. See, we all know, like, honesty is the key to so much freedom. But the question is, how can we be honest if we're always clobbering ourselves and our friends and our loved ones? It's impossible. It's an energetic impossibility. So this is a way, it's like swimming in this pool of safety, right? Understanding, patience. Oh, the records are much more patient than I've ever been with myself. And we get in there, and in that environment, we can be honest with ourselves in the space of the light. And once we start telling the truth, because you know this, when we tell the truth, we find it unlocks the key, right? Speaking the truth is the path to freedom. And so I don't know. I remember many years ago, I had a friend who always used to say to me, Linda, the truth is within. Was she right? Absolutely. The question I had was, how do I get to that truth? That's the question. Because I tried the jackhammer approach, did not work. This works.
So Linda Howe, you've been doing this work with Akashic Records, I believe, since 1994, correct?
Yes.
How did you discover this information? Will you share your story for our audience?
Oh, of course. Of course. Now, listen, Catherine, you understand this isn't something I could consciously plan. When I was, I grew up in Chicago, right? Very Midwestern, traditional religion, all of those things. And it was good, right? And I was raised with the idea. Well, I don't know what they taught. I know what I learned. What I learned was the idea that if I managed well, I would get to be happy. And I woke up at the age of 24. I had done everything right. I went to school. I had a good job. I had a fabulous apartment. I had cool friends. Everything was set. There was only one problem. I felt so empty inside. So I made a prayer to a God I wasn't sure even existed. I made the desperate prayer. And within a few weeks, I had a moment of spiritual awareness, as many in our generation are having, because we are in the age of awakening spiritual awareness. And so what happened? This was so amazing. I had this moment where I felt completely known, loved, accepted, enjoyed, appreciated by life. And that who I am is a part, and a valued part of the entire scope of creation. Now, listen, I was not raised to this. I didn't understand it, but I knew one thing. This was incredible. And whatever it is, I've got to have it. Right? And so the search was on. And that was, I was 24. And between 24 and 40, I did everything. Because my goal was I wanted to recreate that experience for myself. And so I did everything I could think of until at 40 years old. Now, at this point, I'm running out of steam, And I go, this friend says, go to this workshop. I thought, oh God, another workshop. So I go to the workshop. The woman who's teaching was not someone, like I didn't have a personality click with her at all. I thought she was very obtuse and esoteric. I mean, certainly a gracious woman, but I didn't, who knew, right? I knew we weren't going to be friends, but here's what else. I followed the instructions and I opened the record, and it was the same experience I had had at 24. And I knew at that point, I was like, that's it. And I was off to the races. So that was in 1994. And I have been working in the records ever since. Just one problem at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time, moving deeper and deeper into this realm of conscious awareness and really enjoying the journey. So that's how it all came to, but once I got into the record, then I thought, oh, good, I'm done. I found it, right? I'm done. Well, it was just the beginning. And along the way, right, we're talking 4 books later, teaching internationally, a doctorate. There's no way, and the conscious mind can plan for any of these things. But here I am.
So Linda Howe, what in your professional experience, what do the Akashic Records share with you about the coronavirus pandemic that we've been all living through for the past couple of years?
How about it? This is really interesting because I was in China for much of 2019 until, I couldn't go back to China because of the coronavirus, which really shook me. Okay, because I'd been teaching there extensively and really it was so fun and great. But here's what happened. I go into my records and listen, I am very much of my generation. By nature, I'm a dualistic thinker. Good, bad, right, wrong, right? I'm looking in my human being, I'm looking for someone to blame. And you know what I get in the records? This is so fabulous. The coronavirus, it's real. Okay, this is real. And it knows no geographic boundaries. This is demonstrating, so from this Akashic perspective, it's like being on a perch and being able to observe from an altitude of awareness, right? And I look and what I notice is this. The coronavirus is revealing to us the fact that we are already one. We are already one. This virus took over the world before we could even figure it out. No one had figured it out, and we love to figure stuff out. But it was impossible, right? It was like wildfire. And what it did was it transcended geography, social class, right? Race, religion, absolutely everything, and met us at the level of our physical humanity, which is something we all share. And I was thinking, originally I thought, oh, this is to help us get to a state of oneness. And in my record, they kind of took me by the nape of the neck and said, no, dear. This is to let you know you're already one and to start operating. And that as we function as a singular unit, this will be resolved. And that has actually proven to be the case.
Yeah.
So it really, and you know what else I got is that there's nothing to be afraid of, because I was really frightened. I was frightened. People, I live in Chicago and people around me were getting sick. I mean, it was frightening and no one knew why. But what I was led to understand was don't be frightened, right? And the fact of the matter is, this is a terrible thing to say, as human beings, we need an off-ramp. And for anyone who is really, it's time to go, they can go now, you can go now. I mean, and I don't want to be cruel or harsh about that, but to understand that there are times in history when we're in these periods of epic change when people need They need a way in, they need a way out. And that's what's happening. But it's to reveal the oneness that has always been at play here. It's not making us anything, it's letting us know what's always been the truth.
And with that very sage observation, we are now going to take a break from our commercial sponsor, and we'll be right back. So Linda Howe, in my work as a medical intuitive healer, as you know, every illness has messages for us. And in my work as a medical intuitive healer, a virus is a call for a change in consciousness. So if you think about a change in consciousness, that's saying, hey, you need to think about things a little bit differently than you have been doing. So going back to the Akashic Records, and I really appreciate your saying the coronavirus is here to say, hey, you're already one. You only thought you were separate from people on the other side of the planet.
That's right.
So what are the messages that you're finding that the Akashic Records is sharing with you as you go about doing readings for people suffering from COVID-19?
Okay. I've had the great privilege of working with many people who've been on the path for a while and have been, I want to say, victims of what I call spiritual confusion and superstitions. They thought that they could separate themselves from their families, like their blood-related relatives. Now listen, I know I would never say spend time with people who are mean to you, never in a bazillion years. However, the truth of the matter is there is no cord that can be cut, no protective measure that can be installed that can cause a fundamental separation between people and their family of origin. It is an energetic impossibility. And so as I have talked to some people, the opportunity of the coronavirus was to make peace with the fact that this is my family of origin. These are my people. Now, I may have all kinds of opinions about them, and to take responsibility for the kind of judgments, like I'm spiritually evolved, you're not, na 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 boo boo, like this kind of business. And so what I have seen in this segment of the population is an opportunity to really clear up confusion, to make amends, to really say, I'm sorry, I thought I was so much better than you, and to find a way into peace. The other thing I have been very struck by is the recognition in the record that death is not an indictment. It's not, it's something everyone on the planet will experience in the most appropriate way. And I know I have some people who could not cure themselves of the coronavirus. They could not do it. The question, see, from an Akashic perspective, the opportunity for each one of us in every lifetime is to grow into greater love for the self, unconditional love. So the question becomes, how do I love myself? Or is it possible that I can love myself even though I cannot heal myself? That is huge. Can I love myself even though I cannot heal people I love? Because I've talked to so many people who have been just torn up because if their spouse, their child, their neighbor, their cousin, someone they know has gotten very sick and died, and they couldn't save them, and the kind of heartache that's caused. But see, the records say this is because we are here to grow into unconditional love for the self. The question becomes, how do I love myself? Even though, and then, do you know, this is very interesting. I had a woman who was very sick, hospitalized, got better. Do you know what she suffered from? Survivor guilt. Mm-hmm. She was just tortured. Why was she saved? And there were so many better people. Do you know? So the question for her was, how do I love myself even though I got better? See, so every one of us is on our own path, and the coronavirus has been a way for many to actually confront the core issues really embedded in our souls that we came to resolve. That's how I've seen it. It's been, and do you know what, Catherine? I love like formulas. I love one size fits all. Unfortunately, I haven't found that with this because everybody's relationship to it is so different. There's the fundamental grounding that we're already one. So now what do we do? Right? And then we have our individual experiences of it.
So Linda Howe, I really appreciate that you're talking about how this is a time that helps us make peace with our family. Yes. So let's just talk about science for a moment. So 50% of your DNA comes from your mother, 50% of your DNA comes from your father. And then if you go to your grandparents, it's 25% from, each paternal and each maternal grandparent.
Okay.
So that means all of your programming, genetic programming, energetic programming, emotional, mental, spiritual, it comes from these people. And as you say, you may not like them, you may not approve of them, right? But what I find is that as I do my spiritual work, as I resolve these core issues, yes, I free myself and then I go into choice. It's like, okay, I've got all this genetic programming that's affecting me on every level, physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And as I do my work, then I'm in choice. Then I can be in choice. But until I clear those ancestral patterns, I'm just doing what I'm literally programmed to do.
Absolutely.
And that is why I've had clients, it's like, they're like, I swept that floor and I swept that floor, but they haven't cleared the issue all the way through their ancestral programming.
Right, right.
So as you read the Akashic Records about the COVID-19 pandemic, is there anything that has surprised you that you found was maybe different than you would have thought?
I was taken aback by the record having no judgment and no opinion. Okay. So, here in the States, there has been all kinds of mayhem and conflict, vaccinate, don't vaccinate, the politicization of everything, mask, don't mask. And so I go into the records and, I'm looking for spiritual justification for my own opinions.
As we all do.
Of course. I'm like, tell me I'm right. And you know what I get? I get that, first of all, it's none of my business what other people do. Mm-hmm. And that if other people, they want to get vaccinated, they don't want to get vaccinated, this whole pandemic is about people making choices. Okay. And that as much, this is the other thing, I want people to respect me when I make a choice. I really do. And the records pointed that out to me. And that it would be, right, that the opportunity is to respect other people's choices. The other thing, though, that was so funny, I'm in my records and I'm like, well, what if I do my own research? So here's what I get. This is so funny. My records, the awareness comes to me. Linda, you're not a scientist. You're not going to research this. Who are you kidding? The question is, who do you trust? And as a human being, see, this is one of the things that's so, I think, fascinating about the record, is that there are points when I'm working in the record when what is very clear to me is that I have been given a mind, I have been given emotions, I have been given a body, and I am expected to use my faculties to the best of my ability. That working in the record is not an end run. It's a guide. And anyway, so that's really what, the way I think that it has been surprising to me, because I thought the record was going to say, this is the right way, that's the wrong way. And I thought, oh, great, whatever the record says, I'll go with it. And the record is like, no, this is an opportunity for you, Linda, and for everyone else to make their choice. But be honest with yourself, because I have to tell you, when it was like, listen, you're not a scientist and you're not going to do any scientific research, so don't kid yourself. I had to laugh because, that's true. That's just true. And I don't want it to be true, but it's true. So that's, that's pretty much how this has been unfolding. It's been fascinating.
So Linda Howe, you talked about a lot of it comes down to a question of who do you trust?
Yes.
What do the Akashic Records share with us about how to trust and who to trust?
Okay, this is a great question. This is a great question. Okay. This is the way I'm understanding trust, because it's really, I'm understanding it in new ways now, right? Because of the condition of the world. So the first thing is that what's clear to me is that all human beings are fallible. All human beings, everybody. Okay. Now, does that mean don't trust them? No. It means, in my experience, it means don't trust them first. What I can trust is the purity of the light, the clarity of the light, the goodness of the light. That's what I can trust 100%. Okay. I can trust in the fundamental goodness of life. That's what I can trust. Then human beings are in the service of that. Now, when I'm dealing with human beings, if someone is a thief, I know someone that I love very much who is a thief. It's just the way it is. I may say, I trust this person, so I'm going to leave my expensive earrings out. But the fact is, I need to trust people to be who they are. And so I like, when I make a decision, I have to trust that people have their opinions, their agendas, and they're kind of like operating mechanisms. Everybody has them. I have a friend who smokes. Okay, there aren't many smokers left in Chicago, but it's true. I have this friend who smokes. And the thing is, I always want to say, when we're out, don't smoke with me. But the fact of the matter is, my friend is a smoker. Now, do I want to be, and I know that at some point in an evening out, my friend has to go for a cigarette. I can have a meltdown over it. See, I want to trust people for who they are. But the important thing is that I trust 100% in the truth of life, the goodness of life, and I trust human beings to be agents or instruments, so that there's not that pressure. I can't put pressure on people to be even though when I look at someone, I can have a sense of their soul's potential. I really do. I'm like, oh my God, this person's so magnificent, but they may not be there yet. That it may not be real to them yet. And I have to trust that they will grow into that. So I think trust is something that I'm actually addressing in my life right now. It's so interesting you asked about it, because it's unraveling. And in these circumstances, everything is changing. Everything is changing. The way we understand our bodies, our minds, our relationships with others, global events. I mean, everything is up for grabs. And so, so I can't, first of all, I can't trust the old ideas to take me any further than they've, my old ideas will get me to an old place, familiar, comfortable, and limited. And so I want to be open to new ideas. The problem is, as human beings, I want a guarantee. There are no guarantees. This is an experiment. And so I have to fundamentally trust in the goodness of life and then experiment.
Albert Einstein, widely recognized as kind of a smart guy, he said the most important question is whether or not you consider the universe to be a friendly place. So when I consider the universe to be a friendly place, every hand that touches my body is a healing hand. Every man brings me knowledge and wisdom that is for my highest good.
Yes.
And on that note, we'll take a break.
Okay, terrific.
Our sponsor will be right back. So Linda Howe, like you, I like to give practical solutions to what's happening, with a person in the world that we actually live in, right? What I refer to as actual humans, as opposed to the ones in the textbooks. And, at the end of last year, I asked for guidance about the year that we're living in now. And what I received was that we were going to be going through a period of incredibly rapid change, and that the change was going to be so fast that it would be hard for ordinary people to just keep up. And I remember receiving that guidance and thinking, I almost wrote about it and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I think everybody needs like hope and encouragement, like keep going, you can do this. But at the same time, whether I talk about it or don't write about it, it's still happening.
Yes.
What do the Akashic Records share with you, Linda Howe, about the pace of change that we're living in?
So just so you know, I wish you had written the article. Okay, because personally, I've been very impacted by this. Yeah. The rate of change is so ridiculous. Okay, for me personally, right? Moving, blah, blah. I mean, it goes on and on. But here's the thing. I've gone into the records and really explored this. And what I have discovered is, from a records point of view, first of all, to understand that there is no malice in this. This is not, there's nothing mean about it. It is not punishment. What it is an opportunity to, I want to say, go free, an opportunity to expand our experience of freedom, because the mind cannot even process the rate at which things are happening, right? And the emotional body is so overwhelmed. It's almost like at the level of emotion, it would be best to stand in front of a fan and let the wind of change blow through us, right? Because what I've gotten in the record is, at the individual level, it is almost impossible. There are a few people who can grok all of this. We don't know them. I don't know who they are, but there are a few. And so we're not saying no one, but for the most part, it's to learn how to let life flow through our hands like sand. Now, I don't get many images. I'm not image driven. I'm much more sense of knowing. I've seen about 5 or 6 images over almost 30 years. I have this awareness of like these great all-state hands with sand going through, right? And it was so clear to me. I could feel it in my bones. Like this is the opportunity is to let it all go. Like the song from Frozen, right? Which is, anyway, that's no accident either. I mean, that's part of this whole thing to get the mass consciousness ready for the idea of let it go, let it go, let it go. Because where we are going, we don't really know where we're going. Right. We cannot take our old ideas with us. They are not going to be helpful. And the only way we let them go is when we have to. And that's what this is. And so step by step by step, anything that comes up, just let it go. Because anything that we try to hold on to is going to give us whiplash, right? Energetic whiplash. We don't want that. We've had that. It's not good.
Linda, how I really appreciate what you said earlier, that old ways of thinking are it's like it doesn't work anymore.
No.
And I know when I was studying medical intuition, one of the things that we learned about was the vibration of the entire planet is speeding up.
Absolutely.
And what maybe worked 10, 15, 20 years ago, it may not work today. And we need to be in current vibration. So all the things that we can do to be in current vibration.
Right. But see, in the record, this is interesting because I've been very interested in the business of vibration and the acceleration of vibration of life and the planet, all of this. And what I have seen in the record, very interesting, is when light gets poured into a human being, the light immediately converts to positive human traits, qualities. So while it may be extremely difficult to try and get a handle on this thing called vibration and get in harmony with it, very, very like confounding to many, many people. What is like a shortcut? Love shortcuts. What is a shortcut is to let go of burdens. We all understand heavy emotion. We all understand difficult complication, whatever. We understand that. And what's being called for, I would say life is insisting that we take a look and say, I can't be, I don't have the energy to be mad about this anymore. I have to let that go, right? It's not helpful. I cannot take that with into the future. But see, the question for us, and it's a new question for human beings. It's a question certainly our parents didn't deal with, but it's a question we are the first ones in history to be facing this en masse. And the question is it okay for me to be happy? How much happiness can I allow myself to experience? Am I really good? We are the first generation in history. There have always been people here and there, littered across the globe who believed in the goodness of humanity. But we are the first generation to believe that not only are we good, but so is everybody else. This is radical. And this idea is it's igniting, change globally. Because it's even 100 years ago, no one thought that. People were born into life thinking that they were just doomed to whatever. And now people are born into life like, wait a second, I was born into this, but I have places to go. I will go beyond this. To have those thoughts consciously is new. It's very exciting.
So Linda, how, as I'm sure you're experiencing, as you talk to what I refer to as actual humans living through this time, I find that there's a lot of predominant emotions of grief, sadness. Like you said, we've been sick, we've lost people, we're sick. Another big one that I find is anger. It's like, I thought I was I followed all the rules and here I am. And another big one is anxiety. So this is kind of maybe a three-part question, but
the trifecta. Okay, yeah. Which one do you want to do first?
What do the Akashic Records share with us about the grief brought out by the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, here's this. Okay. To a person, the records have indicated that the acceleration of freedom from grief requires acceptance and non-judgment. Mm-hmm. So especially for people who are spiritually astute, they're like, they're upset that they're grief-stricken. Mm-hmm. Being spiritually aware is, we don't get an exemption. I'm sorry, you still have to be human. So the records suggest it's all right to be, of course you're upset, and want to give to ourselves the level of like compassion and understanding that we would give to a friend. And that, because see, acceptance of emotion dissolves emotion. Mm. Acceptance, as long as we are fighting ourselves, antagonism, anger, that's like crazy glue. It's energetic crazy glue. The more I judge something harshly and the more upset I am that I am that way, it is on me like white on rice. But if I say, well, of course I'm upset. This is upsetting. This is terrible for a human being. Okay. And then what happens? The emotion dissolves. Okay. And that's, so the idea is, do not judge. Extend kindness and respect to yourself, even though you have this, and it will go away. And what are your words of wisdom? What does the Akashic Records say about all the anger? I mean, there's... Well, here's the thing. Of course we're angry. Of course we're angry. It makes sense. Okay, here's the problem though, or this is interesting. Okay. The root of the anger is a confused idea. The original confused idea is, like you said, that if we are good, we will win the prize, whatever the prize is, we will get what we want. If we do everything right, we will get what we want. Life, that's not the game of life, right? But we're angry because we have been sold and bought a bill of goods that is not true. And it is based on the idea that self-knowledge is all powerful. Now, self-knowledge is great. I love self-knowledge. I think it's a great thing. But self-knowledge is not power. These are two different things. And so self-knowledge can shine, it can help us see more clearly, but it doesn't give us the energy to act right differently. So we're upset because many of us believed, and I know I believed this too when I was younger, that if I do everything right, I get to be happy and I'm going to get everything I want. And that's not how this goes. See, when we talk about a spiritual journey, we are talking about aligning with the spirit essence of love that's within us, unleashing the infinite love within. And we do that by recognizing and doing our best to live out our soul's purposes, right? As we do that, we're enter into the flow of life. But no one is guaranteed immunity from the hardships of human life. Now, it doesn't mean we have to fall in the ditch and be crushed by them. It just means everyone, there's a beginning and an end to every human life. And along the way, things happen. That's all.
So final question, Linda Howe.
Yes.
What do the Akashic recommend about anxiety and how?
Okay, here's the thing with anxiety. Here's a few things. So this is how I've come to understand anxiety. The root of anxiety is inappropriate self-reliance. If I am counting on myself, Linda, the person, to handle everything, I'm going to be anxious as you know what, because the truth is, as a human being, I am finite. Now, what's also true is as a soul, I'm infinite. And that's the great paradox we all live in. We're both infinite and finite, limited and unlimited, mortal and immortal. No wonder we're confused. But here's the thing, with the anxiety, the more I can lean into the goodness of life, trust in the greater truth, then there's nothing to fear. When I lean into myself and my friends and other human beings, it is very appropriate to be a nervous wreck. So when I'm anxious, because I have attacks, of course, I look and I say, where am I leaning? Where is my reliance? Am I thinking Linda is going to like strong arm her way through this? Forget that. How about I get in the river of life and let it take me where it will? Because when I'm in harmony, fear goes. And I don't mean quitting. I don't mean quitting. I don't mean throwing in the towel and saying, rah, 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 forget it all. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, wait a second. I am here for the ride and I will do what I can. It's very different from I'm driving that bus.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Our guest today has been Linda Howe, world recognized expert on the Akashic Records, author of 4 books. You can find out more about Linda Howe and her wonderful work at her website, lindahowe.com. And remember, when you recognize the oneness of all things, you can get into the flow and heal yourself naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.